his region. So my first guests, I want to welcome on to the show. We have Georg from XroadMedia, Head of Data Services, and Adolf Proidl, who's also a partner.
Hello.
Hi. And Georg, you know far more about Adolf than I do, so perhaps you should do a bit more of an introduction.
Yeah, thank you, Kris. Let me introduce a little bit Adolf, because I don't know anybody else who has that much knowledge, than Adolf when it comes to personalization and recommendation technologies. And I think you're already working since 1996, when you were, working for Philips, as, being responsible for EPG-driven, recording products such as DVD-R. Maybe some of you might still remember that. And, you have led many innovation projects and had many positions in Philips when it comes to innovation. And you are holding more than 30 granted international patents, which is obviously quite impressive. And now, since a couple of years, you have actually a new venture called XroadMedia. And, maybe you can tell us a little bit why you actually have founded that new venture and why.
Thanks for the introduction, Georg. Makes me feel already very, very old, but it's good to start something new like XroadMedia, where in 2012 we started from the belief that it is time to start the most encompassing and best performing content discovery and recommendation service available from the public cloud. So, there were so many different isolated solutions, some not really focusing on search, others looking really on recommendations, others on content discovery. And we thought it should be most easy to integrate for anybody. It was the time when really apps started to flourish, to say people that understand how to code apps, how to do, we would say today, HBB TV applications or others, they should be there and take advantage of all the knowledge we had in the past through the API that we're offering from the public cloud.
Mm-hmm. Maybe we can start a little bit with the history, because, personalization and recommendations, they have actually evolved quite a lot over the last recent years. And, what would you say are actually the most recent trends, customer demands, and also challenges to be solved?
When we really look a bit onto the history that you touched base in the first part of your question, Georg, it is really first all these what we call today, I would say, machine learning things. They were constrained by processing power and the availability of premium program guides. So the first things just looked at overlap in user behavior, and people who know this you also watch that, so you might want to have a look. It was very basic, it was very principled. And there was a second wave where the people thought the holy grail is semantics, and they drove really into, I understand he likes thrillers with a particular person, and I give him more and more and more, and then you ended up in your own bubble, and it was not fun anymore. I think today, on the one hand, we see that companies like ours that have a large history, that have seen this development, they understand that they have the responsibility and an overall arcing umbrella to really combine these things and make the most engaging and most trusted user experiences. On the other hand, you see that with big data, with artificial intelligence, there are a lot of companies that really are focusing on very specific niche applications like enhancing metadata to go just deeper and deeper. And I think this is a trend that still needs to be sorted out, how some of those new advances will really trickle in.
Yeah, because like a couple of years back, and even last year at IBC, for example, and there was a lot of talk about personalized television, stuff like that. And nowadays, I think, this is almost gone, and everybody's talking about AI, kind of like being the new trend when it comes to, prediction technology, stuff like that. And I'm wondering a little bit, what does it mean actually for, the classical recommendation, like collaborative, probability-based recommendations? Will they become redundant now because of AI?
In AI, in such a way, I think it's a synonym for deep neural networks and their learning, and it's extremely impressive what the technology can deliver today. So facial recognition, better than a human being. But on the other hand, it's very basic elements that come here together, and it's not a real intelligence. If you look like on the hype curve of Gartner, they will show you that really true intelligence is just starting to grow on the hype curve. We are not in the top of the hype. And the real disconnect that I see here is the artificial intelligence can do a bit of it, but it's a small element. It would find or identify an actor in a movie, etc. But what do you do with this information? So you need to have the possibility to really start a dialogue based on these insights with the consumer. And once you want to start a dialogue, you have to have technologies that you can rely on, that has proven to reach out to the consumer, to allow him to deeply involve into the content that he's watching, and really take him along to new content that he will enjoy.
I'd like to ask a quick question, if that's all right. I mean, just from a basic perspective, when you think about recommendations engines in general, what kind of difference does it make in terms of navigation to content? If you're a content owner, how important are recommendations for a viewer?
I mean, for a viewer, it's about the value of a whole subscription. And we have seen this back in the old days with actually Comcast, that was just upgrading from a 150 channel to a 300 channel service. And they thought about how they should price this service. And they thought that they will give those that had the largest and best package the 300 channels. And the problem is that people scratched their heads. They said, I couldn't do with 150 channels. What will I do with 300? But wait a second, will I get my 150 for half price somewhere else? And the most valuable customers churn. So the point I want to make here is you need to understand and what is the value for the consumer, and you need to bring it into the front so that he sees and experiences the value and gets engaged and has a trust to the brand that it delivers him supreme experiences.
Yeah, because I mean, if you look at the content universe, right? I mean, there's more and more content available. I mean, it's increasingly difficult for users to find the content they are interested in, and I think that's obviously a trend. I mean, we see for a couple of years already. But I mean, when we look at the recommendations itself, right? I mean, there are obviously a couple of providers in the market, and there is not a lot of movement. So it looks like that the adoption of kind of like this recommendation technologies, personalization, or also personalized television is actually quite slow. Although there is a really strong logic for that, and why users actually need it and want it. So why do you think it takes such a long time that this is kind of like?
I think this is inherent in the TV industry. The lead times, if we look at big operators, they have set-top boxes and a lot of other equipment in place. It will take them 18 to 24 months before actually they can deploy and do new things. And in 18 to 24 months, the technology, 24 months back, nobody talked about artificial intelligence. So they're really in a catch-up game. First HD, then 3D, now 4K recommendations. But I think now, at least in our, let's say, the recommender and content discovery part, I can see that with over-the-top television, we see a much higher adoption rate currently, and we are very happy with that, of course.
And maybe, like the whole AI hype does help also a little bit, because, I mean, it's, again, kind of like maybe moving a little bit more on the top of the mind, or like the roadmap of potential customers.
I think everything that draws back the attention to the people, there is technology out there that can increase the value, that will reduce churn, that will increase customer loyalty and drive sales according to KPI. I think that is absolutely helpful, and as long as the dialogue keeps open and with our customers, we're really happy about that.
Maybe one last question. I mean, if you're reflecting a little bit on IBC, 2018. I mean, what would you say are the current trends when it comes to a personalized TV, recommendation personalization, and I mean, you can see here at the show. And what do you think actually makes sense from your point of view?
I think the trends, as you mentioned, are all centered around artificial intelligence. And for me, this means this is in line with audio-video analysis, where really these artificial networks excel. For us, and I think the whole search and content discovery industry, this means there is more data available about content, so we can ignite the afterburn on all the technology that is out there and that is tested and that is proven. And in that sense, AI is very much welcome to help and support us.
I've got one more question, actually. We've almost run out of time. But do you see any risks around the management of personal data in the way in which these systems work? Do you as an individual, lose the right to that data?
I think when it comes to television consumption, the curious thing is that people do not expect recommendations from them personally. This might be true perhaps still on a mobile device, but we are in a multi-device world. You consume on the big screen, you consume on the tablet and on the mobile when you're on the go. And what you expect is actually recommendations for the viewing setting you are in. And we have tested this into large-scale experiments with 40 households in Germany, Belgium and the Netherlands here. And we have seen that if you have a couple sitting in front of the TV, even if you knew very detailed what they are watching individually, extrapolating and giving good recommendations for that setting is not possible. What you need to do is to profile directly the social profile, or let's say the social compromise that the two are having because they want to watch something together. And then you're successful, and then I think you are in a very different setting and a very different dialogue than really spying on somebody.
Social compromise, what a wonderful way to finish. Okay, so Georg and Adolf, thank you so much for joining the show.
Thanks for having us.
And enjoy the rest of IBC.
Will do.
Live from the IBC.